Every morning, we wake up, and before we even get out of bed, someone else controls our emotions. A notification, a message from work, a number in our bank account, a post on social media, a news headline, one comment, one email, one meeting. Suddenly, our entire day changes. We call that normal. Marcus Aurelius would have called it dangerous. Because almost 2,000 years ago, the most powerful man in the Western world believed something most of us have forgotten. If someone else controls your mind, they control your life. Today, we're going to rebuild Marcus Aurelius's mind, not to understand ancient Rome, but to investigate our own and discover what the rest of us have been missing. Because we're not collecting stories, we're collecting unfair advantages. And I'll tell you now where this ends up. We think we're tired because we're working too hard. I don't think that's it. I think we're tired because of the answer to one question. The same question Marcus would ask if he looked at our week. Who is controlling your mind? Imagine you're running the Roman Empire. 19 years as emperor, wars on multiple frontiers, a plague spreading through the empire for 15 years, and your most trusted general declaring himself emperor behind your back. Constant pressure. Every decision affects millions of people. Most of us imagine someone in that position becoming louder, more emotional, more reactive. Marcus went in the opposite direction. Through all of it, he kept private notes to himself, not for publication, not to impress anyone. No title, no readers. Part of it is marked as written on the front line, in enemy territory. And he wasn't even writing in his own language. A Roman emperor, taking private notes in Greek, because Greek was the language philosophy was done in. That tells you what this actually was, not a diary. Technical work. They eventually became meditations. And one theme appears again, and again, and again. Separate what you control from what you don't. Most of us go straight from the event to the feeling. Marcus inserted one question in between. Is this mine? That's the whole filter. Not, is this fair? Not, do I deserve this? Not, why is this happening to me? Just, can I move it or can't I? If he could move it, he acted. If he couldn't, he refused to spend anything on it. Not the worry, not the emotional energy, not one more sentence. Now, you might be thinking he could do this because he was naturally calm. He wasn't. In 1815, someone found his private letters, not the notebook, letters to his old tutor. And they don't sound like a philosopher at all. He sounds anxious, affectionate, insecure, desperate to impress the older man. Same person, so the calm wasn't his nature, which is exactly why he needed the method. And the method wasn't even his. One of his teachers handed him a book by Epictetus, a former slave turned philosopher. Some things are up to you. Some aren't. That's the whole rule. Though once you start sorting honestly, you notice the second list is almost everything, and Marcus didn't just read it. He turned it into a daily operating system, an anxious man, running a borrowed method with ruthless discipline. No special temperament, no genius, nothing he was born with. He built that filter because he had almost no control over the biggest problems in his empire. So he protected the only thing he could control, his own mind. Now, watch what happens when you apply that same filter to a normal morning in 2026. You open LinkedIn. Someone your age just sold their company for millions. You scroll to Instagram. Your friend is on a beach in Bali. Then the news. Recession warnings. AI replacing jobs. In under 5 minutes, your emotional state has been hijacked by things you have zero control over. Marcus would look at that pattern and ask the same question he always asked. Is this mine? Which part of this is actually yours? Usually, the answer is much smaller than we think. So let's get specific. If you work for someone, name one thing you lost sleep over this month that was decided in a room you weren't invited to. If you're starting a business, how many hours did you give to the funding market this week? It doesn't even know you exist. If you're a creator, think about the comment that got under your skin last week. Would you have hired that person? No? then why did you let them run your Tuesday? We hand our mood to people we wouldn't hire. Does that pattern show up in your week? Hold on to that feeling, because the next principle shows why so many of us feel tired, even when we're not actually doing that much. Here's the problem. Most people think being tired means they did too much. Marcus would have disagreed. As emperor, he was flooded with requests every single day: petitions, military reports, political conflicts, personal betrayals. Everyone alive wanted a piece of his day. Yet in Meditations, he keeps warning himself about one specific waste. Not war, not politics. He writes it more than once. Roughly, don't waste what's left of your life on thoughts about other people, what they're doing, why, what they're saying. Because every minute you spend watching them, you're not watching the only thing you actually run. He treated attention like a budget, not a mood. A budget, finite, spent whether you notice or not. An emperor with unlimited armies still had a limited mind. So the question in his head was never, do I care about this? It was, what's the return? That's not a moral question. It's a strategic one. Now, be honest with yourself. How much of your attention goes to things you can't influence? An argument online, office politics, a comment, a headline, someone else's success. None of it moves the needle, and you pay for all of it. Open your screen time. Actually open it. Split it in two. Things you can change, things you can't. Look at the second number. Marcus wouldn't tell you to stop caring. He'd ask one thing. Why are you spending your most valuable resource where it pays you nothing? Here it is plainly. If you spent your money the way you spend your attention, you'd be broke. So why do we keep doing it? It isn't laziness, it's fear. Not fear of lions, fear of judgment, fear of looking stupid, fear that if you stop producing, you stop mattering. Marcus constantly reminded himself that criticism, praise, reputation, and even death were temporary. Not because he was pessimistic. He writes it flat. Lasting reputation is oblivion. Everlasting fame, vanity. And here's the part almost nobody knows. He was very nearly right about his own book. After he died, Meditations all but disappeared. For centuries, there's almost no trace of anyone mentioning it. It survived by pure luck. One Byzantine scholar around the year 900 found a copy, fell in love with it, and started quoting it in his letters. The most famous book ever written about not needing to be remembered almost wasn't. And here's the mechanism. He ran every judgment through one simple stopwatch question. How long does this last? Then he refused to let short things decide long things. Because temporary things shouldn't dictate permanent decisions. Now think about your own life. Imagine turning down an opportunity. Because strangers might judge you. Marcus would probably smile. Then remind you that in 100 years, neither of you will be here. So why are you letting temporary opinions make permanent choices? Name them. The people you're afraid of disappointing. In 10 years, will they remember? Here it is, plainly. You didn't choose the safe option because it was smart. You chose it because of a room full of people who have already forgotten you. Now, before we finish, because a system you can't criticize isn't a tool, it's a religion. Marcus ran this filter better than almost anyone who ever lived. And he still made the worst decision of his life with it fully switched on. At the end, he handed the empire to his own son, Commodus, breaking almost a century of tradition, where emperors chose the ablest successor, not the nearest one. Many historians mark that single call as the moment Rome's long peace began to come apart. So here's what the filter does, and what it doesn't. It keeps your judgment clear in the moment. It does not make the big call for you. Staying calm isn't the same as being right. When people read Marcus Aurelius, they often think he's teaching calmness. I don't think that's what he was doing. I think he was protecting something far more valuable. The one thing no one could take from him, his ability to think clearly. That's what emperors needed. That's what founders need. That's what parents need. That's what all of us need. And notice, he didn't work less. He went hard until the day he died. He just refused to let the world decide what happened inside him. Because Marcus Aurelius believed freedom wasn't about power. He had all the power there was. And he still had to fight for this. It was about owning your own mind. So, back to where we started. We said we're tired because we're working too hard. I don't think that's true. I think we're tired because every single day, we quietly hand control of our mind to things that were never ours. A notification decides, a number decides, a comment decides. And before we're even out of bed, the day has already been assigned to us. That's not a workload problem, that's an ownership problem. And it's the one problem Marcus Aurelius would not have had. So, tomorrow morning, before your feet touch the floor, it'll already be waiting. A message, a number, a headline. It's coming, and when it lands, Marcus had one question ready. Is this mine? So here's the only thing I'll leave you with. Not advice, a question. When it lands tomorrow, what are you going to ask? That question is almost 2,000 years old, and it still works better than anything we've come up with since. That's the whole reason we do this. Most people copy success. We decode the thinking behind it. The world changes. Great thinking doesn't. Next week, a different mind. A different question. Whose mind should we reconstruct next? Drop the name in the comments, and if you don't want to miss it, subscribe. We've got a lot more minds to decode.